Dawn's here. Hi. Hi,
Good morning,
everybody.
Dawn.
Good morning, Dawn. Wow, this is a long-awaited trinity of glorious oracle magic.
Yeah.
Welcome, Anita.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
So excited to be here with the two of you.
Yay.
Mhm.
So this is our team. Thanks, Dawn. Sending love from sunny
Oh,
Vancouver.
beautiful.
Woo-hoo.
Always good to hear when the
Yeah.
sun is shining there.
Yeah. And here we are. We're just post solstice. We're just post that big, beautiful strawberry full moon in Capricorn. Apparently, we have another Capricorn full moon next month. I talked about that a little bit on my live. Hi, Mystic Mimi. I talked about that on my live with Beyond Mystic. So if you ever want to catch my Saturday lives with Beyond Mystic, those are at, let's see, it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. And they are me doing a forecast for the week, which is what I used to do here on my channel. And now I do it once a week over at the Beyond Mystic channel.
Hello, Ricky. Hello, Valerie. Welcome.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us.
So we are teaming up today, partially because the summer sale is coming to the end at the end of this week. So June the 30th is the last day to take advantage of a 25% discount booking a session, a coaching session, a reading, a healing session with these two extraordinary ladies. And you can see on the banner below how you can go onto the website. So you're going to find the link to the website below this live. And you can go on and you can book sessions anytime in the upcoming weeks or months. You can book more than one at a time using this discount code. So please check that out because we're probably not going to have another sale for a few months anyway. So this is your chance. Hi, Angela.
Hello, Valerie. Hello, Ricky.
Yay.
Aw.
Yeah. So questions, anyone? Looks like,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mystic Mimi.
yeah. Gosh, talking about a death in the family is actually, that's been coming up in a lot of sessions this week, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We've been working with a lot of people. I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, a lot of people are experiencing loss and they are processing their grief. And when you add that grief onto the grief that we're all experiencing collectively around what we're going through, it can feel so overwhelming. And I feel like maybe we start off talking a bit about grief today.
Yes, last week we spoke about, you were talking, there was two words, greed and grief, where you were talking about that energy being really present and being worked through right now. So it's definitely that ongoing still. Well, and it will be.
Yeah, it is. So Anita, would you pull some cards? Maybe you go first and we can look at what we need to know as a group, as a collective.
Before we get going too far as well, please, we're so grateful to have your questions. Please do put them in capitals for us so that we can identify them as easy as possible and quickly. Thank you so much. Okay, Anita.
Yes, so the first thing that came up was the learning experience card.
Okay.
And these are tough life lessons. Light, I wanted to say, because the light being held up, and I'm holding this here for a moment to really be taken in, because for us to ignite that light within us even more every time we're on a grief journey, it can take us on a ride if we allow it, but also if we get calm with it, which is the other card I pulled here was balance, finding a balance. And that balanced energy so that we can shine our light even through the darkest of days, the heaviest of energy, and even it's not that we never go down and heavy, but it's how long we stay down there, and can we rebound faster than we did before,
Yes.
which doesn't diminish the grief or the love that we have for someone or for a situation, but it is feeling like our calling of what we're meant to do is to bring light in to all of these experiences. And then
Mhm.
we start to feel the joy in our hearts again. And then the lesson appears. It's like, oh, this happened so I could see with new eyes. I
Yeah.
would never want to choose to have this grief. However, I can see the message that is coming because the grief has already happened. Those things are already in motion.
Hmm. Beautiful.
I hear you saying the words light, Anita, and it's making me contemplate the different meanings of that word. Like we think about lightness as in not heavy weighted, not really potent or heavy. We also think about light versus darkness and light versus shadow. And you know what I hear when you said light is I heard warmth.
Mm.
Almost like if you think about the sun, what we love about it is the warmth. You know, if it's shining right in your eyes, it's like kind of blinding, right? It's like, but when you have that just that beautiful, warm, nice distance away, not too overpowering, but it warms you your whole being up, right? And it's like I feel something to do with the difference between warmth and light with regards to grief, because grief can take us deep into our hearts, into our feeling realm, where there is warmth. It's so like heartwarming, right? As
Mm.
opposed to cold, which to me is about distance and like rejection of something. When we bring something in, we warm it because we embrace it with our own warmth. So when you saw that, when you were holding up that card with the light, it felt to me also like it was about the inner warmth. Is
Mm.
what I was hearing.
It feels like in all the senses, all the meaning of light. So I love that you brought the warmth in, but it's also shining that light for us to see and feel that warmth is to show us that we have that ability to love. That is why we're grieving.
Mm-hmm.
They
Exactly.
really move together. That's the beauty piece that we love so deeply that when we have that illusion of separation, that it is that much love that pours from us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, grief and loss is such a infinite topic because we're all going to experience loss and we're all going to leave this plane at a certain time. And when you held that card up, it really represents also similar to the hermit in the traditional tarot. And I've been getting that for people a lot lately. And one of the things that I always encourage is that real deep knowing that all the light that you need is in you, and you can really start to see it when you go down into your darkness. You find the treasure that is your true light. And I really also support people in knowing that even though you're in grief, it doesn't have to be the whole reality of your existence. Like there's space, you know, when you were talking about the lightness of it, what happens after we have a good cry? What happens if we go into the depths of our grief and really allow ourselves to be there? There's this new lightness that gets to
Mm.
shine through. And that's
Mm.
the discovery of the lightness that's in you, right?
Yes,
So
I love
that,
that you're saying this, Crystal, because and in reflecting on my wording, I didn't want people to feel like I was saying not to go into your grief. I was trying to balance it out, but no, I love that you're shining more of a light on that because the journey is so important.
Mm-hmm.
That is why we're here. And I'm seeing a question about emotions, and this is exactly it. We're here to ride the waves and really be in it, not no longer running away from it or medicating away from it, or like really be in it so that we can move through instead of coming up against heart walls and emotionally charged repetitious patterns, right? When we really, and because that's just so beautifully said, right? That how the cry makes us feel lighter. There's so many journeys that emotions can take us through. And it's like, wow, I did that work. And we don't give it enough credit for the work that we do all the time.
And I, friends and clients alike, you know, they'll come to me or they'll speak to me and be like, "Oh, I just went through such a hard time. I had so much anxiety. I went through depression." And I'm always like, "Well done. Like, kudos to you for for your soul, for putting that in your contract, because that's how we do it. That's how, a part of the journey to finding our light and our, deeper essence." So, do you want to just that answer? Let's see what our cards have to say about it. I'm gonna do this. Yeah. And then let's have a look. And then I'm just gonna pull 3 here. Oh, yeah. I mean,
Identify what cards they are.
yeah. So we have the Page of Swords, the Lovers, and the Ten of Cups. Still learning how to get it held up to the camera there.
I know.
Working it out. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure, yeah. Well, to me, it's something about it. Loss brings us right into the present moment, right? Because I think a lot of times we live, like when I see the Page of Swords, it's about a sudden, like, clear insight about something, or being very direct with your thoughts. And grief and loss and the sorrow that accompanies that, it really, even though it's such a deep emotional process, it really brings us into, I want to say, true connection with our higher selves. And in that clarity, we're faced with some choices. This card, the Lovers, is a choices card. It's also about choosing love. So, the choice is, we can either try to separate away from the hurt and the sorrow and the deep grief and try to medicate, as Crystal said, medicate it away, stuff it, deny it, reject it. And we've been taught collectively to do that, by the way. But then it's almost like, if you can see, we've lost a person or the thing that we loved. And then if we lose the memory of love along with it, then we've lost twice. And there's something about choosing love, like to stay with the love. The pain will start to slowly, gradually ebb and flow away. And as Crystal said, the tears, each time you cry, you're going to feel a little bit lighter. And it's actually healing you. And then it's like the sun coming out in the rainbow after the rainstorm, 10 of Cups, emotions overflowing with happy feelings. So, we suffer, we're systemically steeped in grief, unprocessed grief from eons of trauma and tragedy in our ancestral lineages. And so I say as well, when people lose pets, I don't know if you've experienced this, but often they just cry and get so emotional when they lose pets. I've had so many people say, I cried more when I lost my dog than when I lost my parent. And the reason for that is that it's so clean of an energy of unconditional love with our pets. And so we just go directly to choose love. There's no narrative, just directly to love with our grief. And we get to really express it and feel it so deeply. And people often say, I don't know, after that, I mean, if they can let go of the tragedy and the narrative around it shouldn't have happened and say, wow, what a blessing this was in your life to have this kind of love, then, we have this is what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really see this card, this Page of Swords card, quite often as the opportunity to up level our thought patterns, and to come into, it also has somewhat childlike innocence around it, right? So, and that's what we go to. We go to our, those really vulnerable, gentle parts of ourselves when we step into grief. And really, with this, with the Ten of Cups, having, to me, I've been through so much loss and grief in my life, and every time is another like angel that I have up there. It's another, it's another color that's added to the rainbow of my ancestors and my loved ones. And I feel like it adds to my life to have these beings on the other side that are in my court and that are helping me, assisting me in building my dream and in doing the healing work along the way to really actualize in this lifetime.
Mm.
And so I really love to see that, because it's not just because they leave this earth plane doesn't mean that they're leaving us. It means that they are being added to the bounty of our souls.
Beautiful way
Yeah.
of expressing it. And like, it's funny, I'm seeing this too, is earning our stripes. There's the stripes, and the rainbow is filled with these stripes. And I just heard we're earning our spiritual stripes going through loss, because it's such an initiatory process. And every time we learn more about ourselves, and like I said, here we are in this collective loss where a lot of people are losing a lot of people. And I feel like we know, because of what we know about what's happened, the unfortunate political situation with the health choices and so on, we know that there's going to be a lot more loss in the upcoming years than what most of us are used to. And I feel like grief is going to be a very important conversation.
And grief is not just about death. Grief is about losing the moments. Grief is about losing your freedoms and the life you thought you might have in so many aspects. We're not just grieving big losses of people, we're grieving little moments continuously. And it's a steady initiatory experience to experience grief and infinite joy this lifetime. So,
Well, and just our hearts go with you, Mystic Mimi, with the loss of your sister here. So we're really
thank you for sharing.
sending, yes, thank you. And you're getting love here, and I love to see that. But it really feels like the conversation is leading into Valerie's question about what is happening with emotions this week.
Yes.
Seems to be dominating. And it connects with what Ashala was just saying about how this is so present with us right now. It when we have pockets of grief happening, or it's like all the dots are connecting, because we have all been experiencing that it's not an isolated moment. We're still dealing with one grief, and then another comes. And so we're deep in it, and this is the journey for us to really dig in and do the energetic work here. So let's see. I already pulled on this, and I got in this deck the Six of Michael, or Six of Swords, with the light at the end of the tunnel. So there's a lot going on, but there is the relief of the balance of the six returning, that the six represents in numerology, but it's also that there is relief that comes through this process.
Yes.
Because the new awarenesses, the little bit of again, as I mentioned before, we wouldn't choose to experience through grief, but when we do, we really do get illuminated. And here comes that the connection with light again,
Mm-hmm.
in all its aspects, as we've already addressed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
what is coming through on your ends here?
Well, before I pull anything on it, I would like to also speak to the emotions in connection with our minds.
Mm.
And I feel like there's been a lot of busyness in people's minds and a lot of thought looping and a lot of unexpected, like uninvited sort of thought patterns. And I feel like that is directly tied into what is also happening with our hearts. I know I've been going through it, and it's interesting to even be a powerful being that has all of these tools. It doesn't save you from the experience of really, having to learn the ways of
Mm-hmm.
mastering our emotions and our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Yeah.
just have a look quickly about. Oh.
So I pulled a couple more, and it's interesting how there'll be patterns for the week. And just before you get into them, because these came up more than once in session yesterday. The grounding card
Mm-hmm.
and the synchronicities.
Oh, wow.
The balancing, the rebalancing of all the energy. Um, yeah, there's just so much that presents that it's like yeah, okay. So they're layers that are getting shown for me, is that it is sometimes part of the distraction, sometimes part of the derailment. So it can serve a strong purpose that way, but it's also like how long are you going to allow yourself down each path,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
it feels like it's going to connect with what you're getting into with these cards here.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kristal.
Well, it's so interesting when we talk about emotions, to have this Nine of Cups come up first, which is really like the wish fulfilled card. It's the abundance of beautiful emotions and really like imagining what it would be like if your dreams came true, right? And it's kind of like it almost feels like what's happening with all of the emotions here. This is the emotional fracturing card here. What's happening is that it's really clearing things out for us
Mm-hmm.
and making space for a new type of emotional existence and a new style, like a new type of frequency around it. Um, and really, like that's what I've been feeling with my thoughts, is like I'm really being invited to discover how much of this is really mine, and how my what is happening in my head actually really resonates with what's happening in my heart. Or is this just kind of what I've been patterned to, how I've been patterned to react to things? And so it's really, I feel like really teaching us about how we've been programmed, and how we've been programmed to react, respond, and thought loop a lot of our realities and what we're being faced with, particularly when it comes to heartache or emotional upset. Instead of looking at it like, thank you for this experience of being able to look at myself and have big emotions and have big thought processes and honor the power of my mind, we're shaming ourselves for it, shaming ourselves for feeling that way. And then it just keeps on looping.
Yeah. I mean, the question being what's going on this week, particularly, and I feel as though I've been saying for the last few months that the war that we're transforming through started out, the war on information, then the spiritual war, and I've been saying we're at this stage now where it's the emotional war, and the final phase is going to be the physical war. meaning we're going to be transmuting all this through our bodies. And a lot of us, highly evolved, fast evolutionary beings, we've been doing that our whole lives.
Yeah.
We've been transmuting a lot through our bodies our whole lives, but that's going to come up for everybody in the next, say 30 to 50 years. Everyone is going to be doing that. So this emotional piece, it's really the turning point. They're saying it's like the heart. And we've, like Kristal said, we've asked for this.
Mhm.
Almost they're showing me like when you turn the gas up on a stove and it'll clean out anything that's clogging, right? The gas stove, like it might sputter, and that's what it feels like this is. It's like, oh, now we see all the gunk that we're carrying around emotionally, all the grief, all the trauma, all the unprocessed stuff. And this isn't just you and your family.
Yeah.
This is all of us. And it's gone on for, 7, 8, 9,000 years of being in this control paradigm that we've been living in a kind of slave system of disconnection from source and disconnection from the earth, from our ancestors. And so interesting that where this is taking us is back, it's taking us back to old traditions, religious systems, communities, beliefs, re-examining those things. I feel like we're going to be updating our old traditional systems and improving on them. There were things about the old systems religiously and morally and ethically and culturally that were really good. And there were other things that were very kind of stuck and blocked. And so what we're going through, even this week, this little old week is a big it's a big invitation for us to move into a greater version of our soul's purpose, particularly around our emotions.
Emotional intelligence.
Hey,
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Anything else to add to that, Anita, before we move on?
I feel like we're in the river and it's flowing and that everything's going to connect.
Yeah,
So listen on, Valerie, because even though we might move on to a next question, I do feel like this is going to be the current of emotions is running through everything, starting with grief and getting into emotions now, and then seeing what we get into next here. We have a question about the future of the LGBT community.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to pop that one up here.
Mm-hmm.
What a good question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Christian, for putting it out there.
First thing I pull, peace and harmony. Just love that for this question. Oh, it's such a bright card. It can't be seen. Oh
there
man.
you go. So much light in that.
So much light. Because it just feels like that's the number one thing, isn't it? Because we know the control systems have been about getting people divided and arguing amongst themselves. The controllers not caring who wins or loses, just observing from the outside and go, oh, yeah, let's just. And then once we've launched that, they'll just take it off on a life of its own. They don't even have to do much once they get it ignited. And so that first response coming through here being peace and harmony, loving all, loving everyone where they're at, regardless of all the different narratives that we hear, because first and foremost, we're all human beings.
It's so interesting. When I first glanced at that question, I thought it said, what is the future of the light community?
Well, there we go.
And then I was like, oh, no, wait a minute. It says LGBT. So, I mean, and I have to say, a bit of disclosure, all three of us, I know, we all we're not coming at this, like we have lots of our own life experience with friends, family, so on. This is not like a foreign topic for us. And I feel like we're all very balanced in how we look at it. You know, we're not, and I think we're three very good people to look at this topic. So without giving any too much detail about anything, just to say that all three of us have our own personal life experience with, you know, people that are very close to us in the LGBT community.
Q1 plus.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
So
You
let's,
lead up, Mom.
I'm gonna shuffle. I get
Yeah,
to
you
shuffle. Kristal and Anita, while we're just taking a pause here for a second, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Check out the sale. Only, what is it? A few more days, like 5 more days to access the coupon code below to get 25% off readings or intuitive sessions, healing sessions with Anita and Kristal. And you can pay for your session before the end of June and schedule it any time in the weeks and months ahead.
Hold on a sec. Ashala, your sound is very muffled.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, I can hear it clear for me.
Pointing
But
that out.
Not sure what
We are
is
using
happening.
a different computer.
Yeah, we are. Okay, we'll go into settings and see if we can do something different with into audio. Yeah.
I meant to check that. Thank you, everyone.
That's the speaker, so we want to go to the mic. Try the internal, maybe. Let's try that.
oh, wow. For a second there, it went a little bit louder.
Okay, is that better, everybody?
Oh, that's very clear, even though it didn't seem unclear before to me, but that feels like it.
Yeah, we're on a different computer today, so the settings are different. All right, I'm going to focus on the question at hand here for a moment.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Dawn.
LGBT.
So much better. Aw, thank you for clarifying that. Technology.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got to shuffle a little bit more. I was too busy talking about other things.
Yes, so I'll go into a couple other things that came up here.
What else came up for you?
Yeah. So also what came up when I looked at that chakra deck was home, creating like a new home space around this. What is that going to look like? You know, new comfort zones, rewriting new stories and building new foundations, because this is root chakra work. So it's connected to also, I would say in tarot, the Pentacles suit, because it's very foundational. We're rebuilding. It's like adding all the information that we're hearing and going, oh, okay, I see how that came into play. And now we're creating this new safe, nurturing, warm zone. And then another one that came up was cut the cords. So to the old stories, it's kind of like when you say, well, it doesn't matter how we got somewhere. Well, for some people that might be something to reflect upon. But once you start seeing a bigger picture coming together, it's just like, I can be brand new every day. And in fact, when I'm working with people who have emotional issues, very often what I'll see as a heart wall or love blocks, it's about releasing those old stories of how we got to where we are, what's been programmed into us, and seeing it and still being able to re-find our balance and be in love, be in that love heart space again. Just be like, okay, I'm can release and forgive those that put things upon me. And then I can choose to be new every day, just like I would appreciate. I can see others anew every day, and I would appreciate if others would allow me to be new every day. Don't keep putting someone in that same box that, no, this is always your role as you're the eldest in the family, and so you run the show or whatever it is. But it's releasing all of that.
I love that. Yeah, like a lot about labeling and identity, and that makes so much sense from what the cards are showing here as well.
Go ahead, Mom.
Can I go first?
Please.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So interesting. We've got the, I'll hold them up one by one. We've got the Empress as all of us together around this question. Now, isn't that interesting that I was just talking about being disconnected? The disconnected, we've got 3 queens here. Now, well, 2 queens and an Empress. Very interesting, very ironic, the play on words. 2 queens, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm starting to sense is that they're showing us there's something about a broken connection with the natural world and with our mothers, with the feminine. So there's something going on around healing the feminine. I just got the chills when I said it. It's like, it's almost as though a lot of what's being expressed is people saying, like, regardless of which letter they're identifying with, they're saying there's something about the sensitive soul tuning into the divine feminine energy, and that we all are experiencing a disconnect. And I think that a lot of people are looking for that connection through switching gender, switching identity, and rightfully so, because we are disconnected. We are disconnected from our divine feminine and from our earth and the natural world. And so there's something about at the base of this, at the root of this phenomena that's, like it's risen time and time again throughout history, right? I'm doing a lot of research and reading a lot of books about ancient Greece right now. And wow, you're just talking about like it's like so much homosexuality in ancient Greece. And with males and also females, like the Amazons, and like that era, there was so much, and a lot of it was a pushback against this patriarchal culture coming in and just obliterating the goddess and anything to do with like nature worship and so on. So
shutting down the intuition.
Yes.
So when you get into that divine feminine, that is also our intuition, because we all have, I don't have it up anymore, but that synchronicity, the yin and the yang that presented before, when we refind our balance, this is within all of us to refind our balance.
Yes, absolutely. And unconditional love. I mean, it really starts in self, right? It's when you pulled that grounding card, I really felt that too, like what Mom was saying about the grounding into nature. And we have this great earth mother that we do get unconditional love and medicine from. And it also is in ourselves, right? So everyone that comes into doing the work of continuously finding that unconditional love of self, like Ethan just spoke to it as well, we're freer than we've ever been, and some are having a hard time getting out of fight mode. And it's because that battle's happening inside, and then there's like, it's that internal journey, like the hermit here. And really it's kind of thrown everybody for a loop a little bit. Like it's kind of like everybody's like, woo, all right, here we go. Like the Fool here. And really the 6 of Wands also communicates, like Ethan said, that we're freer than we've ever been, really honoring the little wins along the way and all of the personal victories of everyone that has their own very unique journey in this community, and everyone's process gives another piece to the great puzzle and that is our experience here as human beings. So
yeah,
Mm.
Yeah, I'm seeing this Queen of Swords in the future, and I'm like, okay, there's two ways we could look at this. So I feel as though the question, what's the future? It could go two ways with this Queen of Swords. On the one hand, it could become more divisive because Queen of Swords is a lot about having big boundaries. And when people are saying, like, no, back off, or, again, claiming an identity, claiming a letter or whatever, right? It's like a label.
Yeah.
And basically the guides are saying, like, we can only go so far into that, and then we're really roping ourselves into a mental pretzel knot, right? It's like it just becomes this mental exercise in canceling ourselves out. They call it cancel culture, but it's internal too. It's like we just keep paring things down and down and down until what are we? Like, so the other way this Queen of Swords could go, especially with the Hermit and the Six of Wands, is she could go a lot into sovereignty, which is a lot about, when I think about the difference, Ethan's talking about the fighting culture. When I think about nonviolent communication, and when we use I statements, when we don't project our experiences, we don't make big demands of other people. We talk about our own internal process really with a lot of clarity. That actually diffuses aggression and anxiety. So if we go the route where we all really like tune inward and become a lot more self-aware, self-masterful, and like Kristal said, doing that inner work and not projecting it outside of us, but going internal with that into sovereignty. And exactly what Anita said, like it could be that one day you're expressing one way and the next day you're expressing a different way, and that's okay. It's going to be about actually claiming sovereignty. So stepping away from labels and divisiveness and into sovereignty of the soul, of the whole human being.
And actually that journey is messy sometimes. And we all are here to make space for our own messiness and each other's messiness as we're figuring everything out. And Ethan said intersectionality, great explanation, is only effective for so long until it becomes more divisive than liberating. Beautifully said. And we're all sectioning parts of ourselves out, and in one way or another, and everything is so perfectly designed at the moment. And I pray that the future of the LGBT community is that we all become a part of a whole. And I suspect it has a lot to do with timelines and the frequency with which we resonate on.
Yeah, and when you say that, become part of a whole, you don't mean into a homogeneous, like we're all the same, but that we are all, diverse representations of that whole, and that we can shift, that we are fluid in a way. I mean, there is the gender fluidity conversations as well, right? And I think that there's something about, like what Kristal said, we've thrown it up in the air. And now we ground into almost like doing the work. Queen of Pentacles in the present. We're getting really, Queen of Pentacles, funny enough, that is also the physical body, right? So that's where people are getting in and literally changing their body shape and doing all these modifications with their bodies because they're feeling like, again, they're trying to connect with the divine feminine, with the natural world, with the nature within. And, I just feel like it's going to continue to evolve, and we're going to come to this point where we can choose to go into sovereignty or into more division. And I really pray that people choose that inward journey of sovereignty with that.
And I want to add to that in this timing here, because it's what I pray for everyone and to feel is that because it's an inside job and this looking within, that you feel that self-love first.
Yes.
Just above everything, whatever is going on, find that self-love first, because it is an inside job, as we always talk about. And so that is, if that's your foundation, everything else, there's so much more ease as you go through the journey, wherever it's pointing and however you're feeling. Just that self-love first. You are enough. You are an amazing creation of God.
And you're right, Anita. It's the first separation from the love of self. And that's where we get into subjugation and disconnect and trauma. You know, the original shame that was put upon us by violating our sovereignty. And, you know, we again, this goes back several thousand years. And I feel like this is these experiences and explorations in the LGBTQ community. I'm always struggling to get all the letters in the right order. Even that, right? Let's change it up. Let's call it a QPBL. It's like, let's get a little creative here. That it's like we are finding our way back home to our human divinity. We're finding our way back home to our fully, as Kristal said, our wholeness, our full connection to self, like Anita's saying, to self first.
And to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes, I don't know about anybody else, but when I spend time in nature, I really ground into my true nature. And when you step away, my sibling spoke about this when she had spent, they had spent a long period of time deep in the woods. And when they came back, they were really expressing to me that they noticed they had such a grounding into their self-love and into the essence of who they were, that the first time they got to look at themselves in a mirror again, they just had so much deep love for the being that reflected back at them. And then they noticed being back in our reality of the world, how quickly that started to fade. And how all of the narratives and external influences started coming in. And then you start reaching to, how do I identify so that people can understand who I am easier, or so that I can go out into the world and be, acceptable, because people might not understand this sort of like newfound infinite self-love and knowing. Everybody's going to ask, how do I identify you today? What would you like to be called? And they were just like, I just want to exist in the way that I did out in the woods.
Which again, it gets into that, the militant divides when you get something wrong, which just doesn't serve, when it's not safe to ask a question when you don't understand something, because it's like, if you don't know, you're in trouble. It's like, how can we learn in an environment like that where everything is so charged? It's like, if we're allowing, creating allowing spaces, then that is, discussions need to be balanced and peaceful, so that it isn't someone losing their feeling of their nature, even once they get nice and grounded within themselves and feel like, yeah, I got it. And then you go out into the world and everything is pushing you back down. It's just, where can we find that ease? And we can find it by bringing it through, again, that self-love piece. And I'm looking at what Valerie added here, where perhaps the physicality has overridden the symbology and spirituality of the divine.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it, again, something that keeps us distracted and divided.
Yes.
We get overly into one lane or the other. It's like when we pull the swords card, it's like, you're in your head and get out of your head. And it's like, okay, it doesn't mean that you stop thinking or value our beautiful brilliance, No, it just means let's weave it through everything else. Let's weave it through the wands of our passions and the cups of our emotions, and then ground it in with the pentacles of our being. We want the whole system running, not stuck in any one part.
Yes. It also comes down to, I feel like I just heard like curiosity over attachment. Like it's like, let's just be curious and playful with each other, ourselves on the daily, and then with everybody that comes into our reality and all of the little messages that come in. Like, let's get curious and be more playful and open rather than being attached to a narrative or a certain way of existing.
You know, I'm reflecting and acknowledging that many people in our community, in our awake community, are really distressed by what they're seeing, what they see as humanity stepping away from its divinity, which is two genders that, you know, procreate to create a new life. And people are very distressed. They say that it's against God's natural law and that it is, like basically a dark force pulling us away from the natural order. And it's, to me, this is where, again, like Kristal's saying, I'm curious to see if it is possible to consider that a lot of this is actually helping us redefine our natural order, including our natural feminine and masculine, the most healthy, beautiful versions of the feminine and masculine that then become, you know, the divine union that creates a high conscious being. Like, let's not stop at, oh, let's go back and have men and women. What did we talk about? Oh, we said that word about wife this morning. Husband and wife, like the word husband meaning the one that looks after the land of the Lord, and wife is like the property of the husband. And we just heard this funny
in Spanish, wife and handcuffs is the same word.
Yeah. So, like, I guess what I want to say to people who are saying, you know, we want the divinity of what God created, a man and a woman. Yeah. And I feel like in many ways, I'm in agreement that there is a divinity of these the duality, the balance of the masculine and feminine, and there is an exalted, healthy version of both, but we don't have that in our history. Like, as far back as we can remember, that is not there. So it's not something we're going to get back to. Like, you know, when people who are, you know, very passionate about this topic say, well, we need to get back to good old traditional values, you know, it's like, really? So we need to get back to where women can be battered and abused and have no voice, where, you know, like it just, and men are sent off
repressing emotions.
Yeah. And men repress emotions and are sent off to war and supposed to kill each other and come back smiling. Like, no, we're going through growing pains here because we are trying to get to a new divinity. And I feel like it's really powerful that feminine, those three female, very strong female energies came through. It to me, this is the divine feminine is trying to get some agency back. And that's a lot about what all this activation and expression is. I mean, if you think about what does the divine feminine, the masculine says, look, there's only two ways, a right way and a wrong way. My way or the highway. It's very direct, right? The masculine is very direct. It has its place, but it shouldn't be running everything. The feminine is very multi-tasking, multi-purposeful, holistic. So the feminine says we want a whole rainbow of expression of our sexuality and our physicality. The masculine says, nope, it's either this or that, black or white, choose one side, you know? So again, we're coming into, let's get, like Kristal said, a little more curious about what is happening is us trying to get back our feminine, divine feminine energy so that we bring more holism down the road to what what are the divine masculine and feminine that will then mature and evolve to create a high conscious, beautiful being of extraordinary divinity.
Yes, makes so much sense with how we've been programmed to all value the masculine, no matter who you are. It's like that's the thinking and the rules, and that is, there's so much that has been programmed into that is where the value is. And so just pointing that out into what you're saying about the divine feminine, that it's really great to find this balance now.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's necessary. And that's why, this, I see that the dark forces have used this phenomena, hijacked it, and are using it as another divisive tool. Go figure. Like, they do that with everything. So no big surprise, right? Like, but it isn't the cause of that. I don't believe that the dark force created this phenomena from the roots up. I feel like it's sort of like it's growing, and they bent it to the direction.
They've hopped on the train.
They've bent it to the direction that they want it to go. But it's natural divinity evolving towards the greater versions.
Yes.
The post-trauma, post-enslavement version of divine human. We're going to need to go through some of this growth and growing pain evolution. So
big conversations coming in here. Oh my goodness. Okay. So, excellent point.
Future human relationships.
Yes. And Ethan also says the masculine may fear that it will suffer the same fate exuded upon the feminine if it lets up its control. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, that's patriarchal strongholds. It's even those that push back against it have fear around what that would look like. So it's
going back to family traditions, not old-fashioned way of thinking. And as I said, when I said about the whole, and I suspect that there's going to be a lot of different timelines that we're all going to be existing on. And I think that there is space for everybody's truths and everybody's realities. And I feel like we're coming into a lot more of coexisting in that way, in our own beliefs and what we're passionate about. But I am curious about that last question there from Ricky. And a couple people have said, yes, it is speaking to polyamory. So will the future human relationships be multiple relationships between men and women? Example, one woman would have multiple men and not married, and vice versa, men with multiple women. Absolutely sounds like polyamory.
Let's have a look.
And
multiple cards.
Yeah.
It's interesting. This reminds me of when I was studying early childhood education, where people would try to pick up a tradition from one culture and take it to another. And it just didn't quite work if you tried to directly do the same thing. It has to have an organic evolvement and connection to, so connecting with what you're saying, Kristal, about having different timelines or dimensions running, that makes sense with that, because we each are riding our own wave, our own thread that's creating, like we're creator of worlds, our own matrices, and it's feeling like that piece is still being figured out, still being it's coming through, like this is really the time, especially the energy of this year, for us to make a lot of decisions about what we want that to look like and what we're going to invest our energy in, because that is our currency, our main currency that will have more and more value, which is already known by, the controllers, because they get people sitting at their TVs getting programmed all the time. So it's the attention is our currency. But that this and weaving what I'm saying back into this perspective of, will that work for some and not for others? And currently those that practice polyamory, the people I've connected with, it's rare to work that I've talked to people, unless you figure 10 years works and then after that it falls apart. Like, how long, what kind of timeline are we looking at? Is it a, forever commitments or forever arrangements? No, it feels again like that, going in and out of what works for us depending where we're at. And can we step out of a system that's told us, showed us how heart feelings need to happen over every little thing, that keeps us not finding peace with any one way, in a committed one-on-one relationship or in an open relationship. We're not, we haven't been shown peace, even connecting with what you were saying before, Ashala, about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. We haven't been shown that anywhere in our lineages yet. So we are creating this now.
Yes, we are.
Absolutely, Anita.
Certainly.
Absolutely. And I see, Leslie, and your comment about we came from a paganistic way of life, and that wouldn't be a bad thing to return to respecting nature and using the natural world for our health. And you know what, I feel like that is I'd love to talk a little bit about spirituality and different traditions. And if you would join us next week, or maybe it's going to be Kristal and Anita for the next 2 weeks. And then I'm going to be back the week after that. So bring that question around in maybe like 3 weeks time, because I'd love to talk about that more. We're kind of running out of time to cover a big topic around religion and spirituality, but it's a great question.
It's a powerful focus.
Yeah, powerful focus.
Yeah.
And so we've pulled some cards here. Kristal, do you want to go first and speak about what you're seeing around multiple partners in a relationship, also known as polyamory? And what I understand about polyamory is that it is about we have different things. There's polygamy and polyandry. So polygamy is when there's one man with several wives. Polyandry is where there's one woman with several husbands. I studied cultural anthropology, so I know those terms. And so both of those are a style of marriage and relationship that are, as Anita said, done in different cultures around the world. They've been done for eons, and there's a lot of cultural reasons why they've worked. To transplant that into North America is not the easiest thing. Polyamory is different. Polyamory is both people. Like in polygamy and polyandry, you have one sex with choice and the other one doesn't have other options. Polygamy is where both partners can have multiple partners. And as Anita said, it is very complicated, just simply by the nature of like time and organization even, right? But the thing that I've learned about polyamory, where both partners have choice, is that the main proponent of it is transparency.
Yes.
And the idea is that saying people have extra marital or outside their primary relationship intimacy. And that's been done pretty much throughout history nonstop. But the idea is that it's something that is not hidden. It's something that there's a desire to discover healthy ways to share that information and support each other in not letting those other intimacies break the primary relationship apart. So that's what I know about it. Let's see what the cards say about what we need to know about the future.
Yes. I mean, I definitely have so many feelings about this, and I see, I'm taking down the middle stream here with this. We're really being, and actually Ethan just spoke to it too, that monogamy in marriage made a lot more sense when people only live to 40, and with longer life, we may not be compatible with one person throughout the whole life. And I do also see, interesting in this card here, she has multiple streams that pour into one big pool. And to me, there's something where we are evolving into a more creative approach and perspective, because people are really stepping into their sovereignty. Mm-hmm. And when we have everyone in a nuclear style monogamous dynamic, what happens is that quite often people will lose their sovereignty. We have been trained to get so intertwined and interwoven that we end up losing ourselves quite often. So things have just started to be stirred up, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's an opportunity for us each to come into designing a sovereign experience about what relationship feels and looks like for us. And it's a journey. I could think that I'm monogamous and then be like, all of a sudden I'm ready to like explore what it would feel like to honor dating multiple people at a time, and then that might not work. Like there's really like, let's design how we want that to feel and make space for each person having that experience and adding to the whole. Mm-hmm. 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 And I think it can be more fun. I keep going back to like, let's play and have fun.
And yet it does bring us, as we talked about earlier, right back at the beginning, it brings us deeper into ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like one of the things that the traditional monogamous relationship, by the way, monogamy in historical context with cultures all around the world throughout time, monogamy was only practiced during times of extreme hardship. So it was a crisis response. Does that mean that we're not supposed to have deeply devoted, committed relationships? No. But the first committed relationship is to self. And I feel like what's happened is that we've been given this model, like you're going to be monogamous, you're going to be, basically tied in with this person, bonded in, vowed in, and then your own personal self is going to be basically connected. So everything from there on is connected, and you lose yourself. Well, to some extent in that.
There's the invitation always to step into sovereignty and learn it through devotion to each other and to, growth into that. And so the invitation here, I think, is to be open to exploring and having real radical, honest communication, and with kindness and respect for the other as we go along, because times are changing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or our times cycling, as Ashala pointed out, right? That we're going through cycles of questioning and rebirthing what it looks like. Well, I got speak your truth. So that radical truth that Kristal just spoke of, right? This is really getting into connection with self when we speak our truth, right? What is on our heart? And then another piece that was coming through is opportunity and change. So changing the paradigms, changing the systems, and finding the opportunity within that without getting lost. Don't feel that pressure. If you're someone who has a traditionalist upbringing where you really value, even if you understand the oppression that religions have brought in, as Ashala acknowledged earlier when we talked about it, it also brings light and love through community and connection, that we're still untangling all those aspects, but it's that there's a foundational piece of what we're drawn to, and that's okay. So it's not in this discussion, we're not saying it's not okay to be really devoutly guided by a God tradition that is commitment between a man and a woman. And that's part of the divisiveness that comes up in these discussions as well, because it's not a loss of voice for anyone who has a traditional view, or what we might call a traditional view, because we're looking at a coexistence, a peaceful, allowing exploration. And the other thing I pulled was intelligence on this, which connects to what I'm saying right now, where like bring our critical thinking along with what's in our self and our heart, and find a little bit more information if you need, if you're being called.
It's interesting that when we were talking about the LGBTQ future, we had all those cards related to the divine feminine. In the spread that Kristal has pulled, we have the divine masculine.
The balance.
And I feel like it's going to be, in a way, this transformation in relationship is going to be a led by men. And why it's going to be important that they lead is because I feel like, in a patriarchal system, we've had this idea that, we had the double standard, right? For as long back as we can remember, men could do what they wanted outside of the marriage. And for women, even up to, the decade that I was born in the 60s, it was like if you were an adulterous female, you would lose your children if you were taken to court by your husband. And so it's totally up till very, very recently. And then in a lot of cultures around the world to this day, there is a complete double standard. And, men have this thing of ownership over women. Like, I'm really jealous if a woman, wants to have another friend. And, it's okay for men to do that, but it's not okay for women to. All of that, I feel like, even though men seem to have gotten the better deal in this, I think they've lost a lot. They've lost a lot of their own emotional maturity, their own humanity, their own dignity. And I think they want that back. I think they want to say, you know what? It's a little more complex than just I get to do what I want and you follow what I say. I think that men are going to say, okay, if I want to have relationships outside my primary partnership, if I want to have intimacy and other connections, I don't think it's fair that I just get to do that. And therefore there's going to be, a growth in, let's get a lot, because, men are also very good at creating systems and rules. And so I think up until now, we've gone about polyamory in a very feminine way. It's been like, oh yeah, let's just experiment. It's very, hippy dippy and like, woo, let's just go to a love fest, a swingers party or whatever. And it's like, as you said, Anita, I know lots of people that have lived in that realm and to varying degrees of success, but mostly ending up not very happy and not very successful. And I think it's because there does need to be, as Kristal said, there needs to be freedom, and there also needs to be systems that honor that, traditions. I mean, what a loss, right? You get to have a committed relationship, but you don't get to actually really have commitment because it's all based on rules that nobody's following. It's like, how is that real? That's not soul commitment, right? Like, soul commitment is you're showing up because your sovereign self wants to be there, not just because this is the dictate of the paradigm. So I say, men, this is now in your court, that something is going to start to grow around redesigning relationships. And that, I feel like men are very much in their physical passions and like, okay, they're going to have some motivation to want to design that. Do you have comments on that, Kristal?
I have comments on everything. Oh my goodness.
I know we're getting on an hour and 14 minutes. But
I
we'll try
usually
to
just
wrap it up.
interrupt her. But
Being polite for the video.
okay. So I just saw this here. I'm looking at this, and I feel like a lot of what is stirring us up into creating these realities is because and even people are speaking to the dating scene is a nightmare and all that kind of stuff, and what is really happening here is we all are longing for connection and to celebrate with more than just ourselves, and maybe do more than just another. Like it's like and of course sexuality and intimacy is going to come into it because we're sensual beings, and we express ourselves quite often through pleasure, and this is just really calling for, like, we're all longing for connecting with other beings. And we are in a paradigm of it has to look a certain way, men and women can't be friends, or like, so we're really starting to just look at things differently and start to experience things differently. And this is some of the first times that we're really doing that out in the open and with a lot more freedom than we've ever had. And so it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride as we, and so a lot of care and compassion, curiosity, and just trust that we're with all of it, with polyamory, with LGBTQ, like all of it. We're here for the ride, and we're here for the experience together, and coming back into unconditional love and making space for different people's realities.
And with what Ashala was saying there about the men or the taking the lead, it feels like it's connecting back to what was said about the divine feminine coming through. It's men who can connect with their inner divine feminine, because we talked about the balance and the yin and the yang. It's refinding the balance that keeps getting shown to us.
And all of us.
Looking at Christian's statement, men are too stubborn and must change, LOL. Well, and I think there's an incentive there. There's an incentive because, as I said before, you just think about these narratives with, men that were like the playboys or the, the players. And I feel like in some ways, a lot of them ended up really lonely, very depressed older men, because they had neglected, when you don't have transparency and deep connection and deep commitment, authentic commitment in a relationship, and everything's kind of a scam, or a power play manipulation, in the end, you've lost huge. When your kind of good looks and charm go downhill, you're out on your own, and it's a very lonely place to be. And it feels like I just keep hearing that men are going to be gifting us with a higher evolutionary version of how they can, like, set an example, a new example, because it feels as though it's very unfortunate. I just keep hearing the guides are saying, in the beginning, I think, even if you think about young men, and they're kind of like, oh wow, we get to have our cake and eat it too. Like we get pornography on the internet, and we get this, and this, and we don't have to do that, and we get to, and I think it can start off just feeling like this woohoo, like the world was made for us, and then, but in the end, it's a very disconnected, lonely place, because there wasn't actually authentic connection anywhere along that line. And that's very sad.
It's too much to live up to as well. When that's modeled and someone doesn't resonate with it, but yet they dive in anyways because of the pressures, that's, again, speaks to all the mix-ups of why people walk a path that doesn't resonate with them or doesn't bring them joy, and then all of the fallout from that energetically. So
I have to say, as we close here too, because it just keeps coming in, that I guess it may depend on your algorithm, but my algorithm on the social media platforms shows me so many men that are doing incredible work. Like, I learned so much about relationships and how I actually want to be met in relationship by what these men are doing and saying, and how they're living and holding the feminine, and like the things that they're saying. I'm like, yes, I didn't even know I felt like that. And they're discovering it for us through uniting with these powerful women in their lives, or through things that they've gone through. And so I have to say that I do see it changing. I really do. From like, I learn every day from them. So kudos to the men that are really doing it.
That leading, that we call it the thin edge of the wedge, right? It's like the leaders, the pioneers in that forging that new territory. And I feel, I was surprised. I mean, I never think ahead of what these questions are going to be or what the answers are going to look like. But when I saw that King of Pentacles down there in the future, I was like, wow, I really got the sense that it's men that will help navigate and set the tone for a healthy paradigm in the future that is respectful, that is sovereign, transparent, deeply devoted, and also honoring of our physical beings, our emotional beings, that we can't just lock ourselves into something, slap a label on it and call it done. Like, we're a lot more complex than that. And we deserve to have a journey of relationship growth and evolution in these lives of ours. And I think I'm just really honoring and grateful that there are men, as Kristal said, out there that are starting this, because I feel like it's something beautiful that they can attend to at this.
I'm sure the men that are attending here with us today
exactly
are part of that group. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you to all who have joined us today.
She's wrapping us up. She's like, oh, you guys have gone on so long. We got all excited as all.
Well, there is 3 of us today. So
there's 3 of us.
A little longer of a discussion.
Yeah.
Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, of course. If you'd like to book a session with Kristal or Anita, now is your chance. Get in before the end of June. Use that coupon code. You can schedule as many sessions in the future as you want. Use the code as many times as you want, as long as it's purchased before the end of June. And wishing you all the best. Have a beautiful week, everybody. And you as well, Anita.
Thank you to you both. Thank you to everyone.
Next week, it's going to be Kristal and Anita here. So tune in, same time, same place. Bye for now.
Bye for now.